The starship Argonaut drifted through the silent void, its hull scarred and battered. Captain Erin Vale stood on the bridge, her arms crossed as she watched the tactical display flicker with a grim map of nearby space. The ship was far from home, lost in a sector uncharted by human explorers. Around her, the crew moved with an unspoken tension, the weight of their predicament pressing down on every breath. They had escaped the hellish battle at Vega Prime, humanity's desperate stand against an alien incursion that had come from nowhere and with overwhelming force. Thousands of ships had been lost. Entire fleets were decimated. The Argonaut, a mid-sized exploratory vessel retrofitted for war, had been one of the lucky few to escape. But survival came at a cost. Their engines were failing, their supplies dwindling, and their communications array had been damaged in the last firefight. They were adrift, blind, and helpless. Erin turned to her first officer, Lieutenant Rail Kinton, who was hunched over a console, his brow furrowed. "Tell me you've found something," she said, her voice sharper than she intended. She didn't have the luxury of patience. Rail glanced up, his face pale in the dim light. "I think so. I'm picking up a signal, artificial, definitely not natural. It's faint, but it's consistent." "What kind of signal?" Erin asked, stepping closer to his station. "Some sort of beacon," Rail replied. "It's broadcasting in a loop. I can't make out the language, but the pattern suggests it's a distress call, or an invitation." Erin frowned. An invitation out here, beyond the edges of known space? Could be a trap. But it was their first real lead in days and they were running out of options. Location? Rail tapped a few keys and the display shifted. A faint blip appeared on the edge of the screen. "Approximately 3 light-years from our current position. We'll need to patch the engines and divert power to propulsion if we want to make it there." Erin nodded. "Do it. And get the crew ready for anything. I don't like surprises." The journey to the beacon was fraught with tension. Every creak of the hull, every flicker of the lights felt like a reminder of how close they were to total failure. Erin spent the time reviewing what little data they had on the sector. The region was marked as a red zone in the Federation's archives, a place humanity had deliberately avoided due to rumors of inhospitable space and strange phenomena. Of course, rumors were the luxury of those who could afford to stay away. For the Argonaut there was no such choice. After 18 hours they arrived at the source of the signal. What they found took their breath away. A massive construct floated in the void, a station unlike anything Erin had ever seen. It was easily the size of a small moon, its surface a patchwork of sleek, black metal interspersed with glowing veins of blue light. The design was alien, elegant and foreboding, with sharp angles and curved spires that reached out into the darkness like grasping claws. The beacon emanated from its center, a rhythmic pulse of light that seemed to synchronize with the faint vibrations in the Argonaut systems. The bridge crew stared at the view screen in stunned silence. "Captain," Rail said, breaking the spell, "I'm detecting a breathable atmosphere inside the station. And power. Lots of power. Enough to refuel and repair our systems 10 times over." Erin narrowed her eyes. "Any life signs?" Rail hesitated. "None. If there's anyone, or anything, they're not showing up on our sensors." Erin turned to the crew. "All right, listen up. We're going in. But I want everyone on high alert. We don't know who built this station or why it's here. If it's abandoned, we'll salvage what we can and get out. If it's not, well, we'll deal with that when the time comes." The docking process was uneventful, but that only made Erin more uneasy. She led the away team herself, stepping through the airlock into the alien station with Rail and a squad of armed crew members at her back. The first thing she noticed was the silence. It wasn't the absence of sound, it was a deeper, almost oppressive quiet that seemed to swallow every noise they made. The interior of the station was as strange as its exterior. The walls were lined with intricate carvings that glowed faintly, casting an ethereal light over the corridors. The patterns seemed to shift when viewed from different angles, creating the unsettling impression that the station was alive, watching them. "Captain," Rail said, his voice low, "this place, it's ancient. The technology here, it's on a level we can't even begin to understand." Erin nodded, her eyes scanning the walls. "Keep moving. Let's find the source of that beacon." They followed the signal deeper into the station, eventually arriving at a central chamber. The room was vast, its ceiling lost in shadows. In the center stood a massive obelisk, its surface covered in the same glowing carvings as the walls. The beacon emanated from its base, a steady pulse that seemed to resonate in their bones. "What is that?" one of the crew members whispered. "Some kind of control center," Rail said, approaching the obelisk cautiously. "I think it's..." Before he could finish, the carvings on the obelisk flared with light. The pulse quickened and a deep, resonant voice filled the chamber. It wasn't a language Aaron recognized, but somehow she understood it. "Humans," the voice said. "You are not the first to seek salvation here." Aaron's hand instinctively went to her sidearm. "Who are you? What is this place?" The light from the obelisk coalesced into a humanoid form, a holographic projection that towered over them. The figure was faceless, its body composed of swirling light and shadow. "This is the sanctum of the benefactors," it said. "We are the architects of life, the guardians of countless civilizations. And we have been waiting for you." Aaron's heart raced. "Waiting? For us?" The hologram nodded. "Humanity has reached the brink of extinction, has it not? Your desperation brought you here. And now we offer you a choice." "What kind of choice?" Aaron asked, her voice steady despite the growing sense of dread. The hologram extended a hand, and the obelisk flared again. Images filled the chamber. Earth in flames, alien fleets descending on human worlds, cities reduced to rubble. "We can save you," the hologram said. "We can provide you with the technology, the knowledge, and the strength to overcome your enemies. But such gifts are not without cost." Aaron's mouth went dry. "What cost?" The hologram's form shifted, its light growing colder. "You will serve us. Humanity will become our stewards, bound to repay the debt we bestow upon you. Refuse and you will leave this place as you came, broken, adrift, and alone." Aaron looked at her crew. Their faces were pale, their expressions a mix of fear and hope. She knew what they were thinking. She was thinking it too. Humanity couldn't win the war on its own. Without help they were doomed. But at what price? The hologram tilted its head. "Choose wisely, Captain. For your decision will shape the fate of your species." Captain Aaron Vale stood frozen in the sanctum's central chamber, the weight of the hologram's ultimatum pressing down on her like a physical force. Around her, the room pulsed with an unnatural rhythm, as if the station itself was waiting, watching. The crew's eyes were on her, fear and uncertainty etched into their faces. "What exactly do you mean by serve you?" Aaron asked, her voice sharp but controlled. She needed answers, clarity. "If we accept your help, what happens to humanity? What kind of debt are we talking about?" The holographic figure shifted, the light and shadow of its form rippling like water. "Service is the natural order of the cosmos. Those who receive must give. Your species will act as our agents, spreading our influence, protecting our interests across the galaxy. You will enforce balance as we define it." Aaron's jaw tightened. "Enforce balance? You mean fight wars for you? Subjugate other civilizations?" The figure tilted its faceless head. "Balance takes many forms. Some require the destruction of chaos. Others demand the nurturing of fledgling species. You will be our instruments, guided by our will. In return, humanity will ascend beyond its current limitations. Your survival will be assured, as will your dominance over your enemies." Rail stepped forward, his voice tinged with desperation. "Captain, this could save us. The Federation is falling apart. Earth is under siege. If these benefactors can give us the power to turn the tide, we can't just walk away." Aaron turned to him, her eyes hard. "And what happens after, Rail? What happens when they call in their debt and humanity becomes their puppet? Do we trade one kind of extinction for another?" Rail hesitated, but before he could respond, the hologram spoke again. "You misunderstand, Captain. This is not subjugation. It is partnership. We have guided countless civilizations to greatness. Some resist at first, as you do now, but they come to understand the necessity of our guidance. We are not your masters. We are your salvation." The words were spoken with an eerie calm, but they only deepened Aaron's unease. She glanced at her crew. They were scared of dying out here, scared of what awaited them if they returned to the Federation empty-handed. She couldn't blame them. But she couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling in her gut, the sense that this deal was too good to be true. Aaron turned back to the hologram. "You said you've helped other civilizations. What happened to them?" The figure's form shimmered, and new images filled the chamber. Worlds teeming with life, their skies filled with gleaming cities and advanced starships. Some flourished, the hologram said. The images shifted, darkening. Planets consumed by war, their surfaces scorched and barren. Others faltered. "The outcome depends on those who accept our gifts." Aaron's throat tightened. The implication was clear. Humanity's fate would be in their hands, but under the benefactor's terms. The crew was silent as they returned to the Argonaut. Back on the ship, Aaron convened an emergency meeting in the cramped briefing room. The tension was palpable, the air thick with conflicting emotions. "This is insane," said Chief Engineer Mara Vallon, slamming her hand on the table. "We don't even know what these things are. For all we know, this death they're talking about is slavery. And what's the alternative?" Rail shot back. "We're dead in the water. Even if we fix the ship, we can't survive out here for long. And let's not forget the war back home. Do you really think humanity stands a chance against the Zalari without help?" "They're not wrong," said Dr. Lena Rios, the ship's medic. Her voice was quiet but firm. "We've all seen the reports. The Zalari wiped out half the Vega sector in a matter of days. If the Federation collapses, billions will die. This might be our only shot." Mara scowled. "At what cost, though? These benefactors aren't doing this out of the kindness of their hearts. They want something from us. Something big." Erin raised her hand, silencing the room. "Enough. This isn't a decision we can take lightly. But it's not just about us. If we accept their help, it's humanity that pays the price. And if we refuse, we might be condemning our species to extinction. Either way, this choice will define our future." The room fell silent, the weight of her words sinking in. For a moment, Erin let the quiet linger, giving everyone time to process the gravity of the situation. Then she stood. "I want options. Rail, analyze the station's systems. See if there's any way we can get what we need without accepting their terms. Mara, assess our repair capabilities. How long can we last on our own? I want answers in 2 hours." 2 hours later, the news was grim. Rail reported that the station systems were too advanced for them to access without the benefactor's assistance. Mara confirmed that the Argonaut could limp along for another week at most before their power core failed completely. They were out of time and out of options. Erin returned to the sanctum with a smaller team, her decision weighing heavily on her shoulders. As the obelisk flared to life once more, the hologram reappeared, its faceless form as imposing as ever. "You have returned," it said. "Have you made your choice?" Erin hesitated, the words caught in her throat. She thought of Earth, of the billions of lives at stake. She thought of her crew, their hope and fear. And she thought of the cost, the unknowable price of this so-called salvation. Finally she spoke. "We need proof. If we're going to trust you, we need to know that you're capable of delivering on your promises. Show us what you can do." The hologram seemed to consider her words. "A reasonable request. Very well. Return to your ship. You will see the extent of our power." Back aboard the Argonaut, the crew watched in stunned silence as the alien station came to life. Beams of blue light shot out from its spires, enveloping the Argonaut in a glowing web of energy. Systems that had been failing sprang back to life. The hull began to repair itself, the scars of battle fading away. The power core stabilized, its output doubling then tripling. Mara stared at her console in disbelief. This is impossible. It's like the ship's been rebuilt from the ground up." Rail nodded, his expression a mix of awe and trepidation. "They weren't bluffing. They could give us everything we need, and more." Erin felt a chill run down her spine. The benefactors had proven their power, but the cost remained a mystery. And as she looked out at the alien station, its spires gleaming like dark stars, she couldn't shake the feeling that humanity's debt would be far greater than they could imagine. And now there was no turning back. The Argonaut hummed with life, its systems functioning better than ever before. The repairs weren't just effective, they were transformative. The ship now boasted capabilities far beyond its original specifications. Advanced shielding, enhanced propulsion, and weapon systems that seemed pulled straight from humanity's most far-fetched prototypes. It was as if the benefactors had taken the ship apart molecule by molecule and rebuilt it into something that defied the Federation's most advanced engineering. But the sense of unease aboard the ship was palpable. The repairs were miraculous, yes, but they came with strings attached. Unseen strings that everyone aboard could feel, even if no one dared to speak it aloud. Erin Vale sat alone in her quarters, staring at a data pad that displayed the Federation's latest casualty reports. Vega Prime, Elysium Colony, the outer colonies of Tau Ceti, entire systems wiped out by the relentless Zalari. The reports felt like a countdown to humanity's extinction, a grim reminder of why they had sought refuge in this desolate sector of space. The benefactors had offered them hope. But at what cost? The question gnawed at her, its answer just out of reach, like a shadow she couldn't quite grasp. Her thoughts were interrupted by the soft chime of the intercom. "Captain, this is Rail. We've picked up something unusual. You'll want to see this." The bridge was buzzing with quiet urgency when Erin arrived. Rail was hunched over the tactical console, his face pale and drawn. He looked up as she approached, his expression one of barely contained alarm. "What is it?" she asked, stepping beside him. Rail gestured to the view screen. "We've detected a ship on long-range sensors. At first, I thought it was another derelict like the ones we've seen scattered across the sector, but it's active. And it's heading straight for us." Aaron's stomach tightened. "Another alien species? The Zalari?" Rail shook his head. "No. It's human." The bridge fell silent as the word sank in. Aaron felt a flicker of disbelief. "That's impossible. No human ships have ventured this far into the red zone." "I thought so too," Rail said. "But the ship's transponder code matches one from the Federation. It's the Icarus, a research vessel that vanished 20 years ago." Aaron stared at him, her mind racing. The Icarus had been one of humanity's most ambitious exploratory missions, sent to chart uncharted sectors of space and search for habitable worlds. Its disappearance had been one of the great mysteries of Federation history. And now, against all odds, it was here. "Can we establish communication?" Aaron asked. "We've tried," Rail said. No response. "But they're closing fast. They'll be in visual range in less than an hour." Aaron turned to the crew. "Get ready. We don't know what we're dealing with, but I want everyone prepared for anything. Rail, keep trying to make contact. And bring us to yellow alert." The Icarus emerged from the darkness like a ghost, its sleek hull pitted and scarred but unmistakably human. Aaron stood on the bridge, her gaze fixed on the view screen as the mysterious ship loomed closer. It was clear the vessel had been through hell. Its exterior bore the marks of battle and decay, and its engines flickered with an unstable light. "We're being hailed," Rail said, his voice tinged with disbelief. "Audio only?" "Put it through," Aaron said. The bridge speakers crackled to life and a voice filled the room. It was deep, distorted, and heavy with exhaustion. "This is Captain Elias Drake of the Icarus. To the crew of the Argonaut, turn back now. Whatever promises they've made, whatever salvation they've offered, it's a lie." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Aaron leaned forward, her mind racing. "This is Captain Aaron Vale of the Argonaut. Captain Drake, you're a long way from home. What happened to your ship? And what do you mean by a lie?" There was a long pause, and for a moment, Aaron thought he wouldn't answer. Then the voice returned, quieter now, as if weighed down by an unbearable burden. "The benefactors are not what they seem. They lured us in with promises of salvation too. They gave us technology, power, everything we needed to survive. But their gifts come with a price, one far greater than you can imagine." Aaron's stomach twisted. "What kind of price?" Another pause, and then Drake's voice hardened. "They don't just want your loyalty, Captain. They want your future. They will use you to further their own agenda, twist your species into something unrecognizable. We thought we were saving humanity, but all we did was doom it." Before Aaron could respond, the Icarus' engines flared, and the ship began to move away, its course erratic and unstable. "They're leaving," Rail said, his voice filled with urgency. "But their power core is unstable. I'm reading critical levels, they're not going to make it." Aaron's mind raced. If Drake was telling the truth, then the Argonaut was walking into a trap. But without the benefactor's help, humanity's survival was still all but impossible. Was Drake a madman, driven insane by years of isolation? Or was he a harbinger of the fate that awaited them if they accepted the benefactor's bargain? "Captain," Rail said, his voice breaking through her thoughts. "What do we do?" Aaron stared at the view screen, the Icarus growing smaller as it drifted toward the void. Her instincts screamed at her to pursue, to demand answers from Drake. But she also knew the risk. If the Icarus exploded, they'd lose their chance to learn anything. And behind them, the alien station loomed, its pulsing light a reminder of the choice they still hadn't made. "Follow them," she said finally. "And keep trying to establish communication. If there's any chance we can learn what really happened to them, we have to take it." As the Argonaut pursued the Icarus, tension gripped the crew. Every scan of the ship revealed new mysteries, technology that seemed both human and alien, systems that defied Federation design principles. The Icarus was a hybrid, its original framework warped and reshaped by forces no one could fully comprehend. When they finally drew close enough to attempt a boarding maneuver, Drake's voice came through the speakers one last time. "Don't come any closer," he warned. "If you value your lives, if you value your humanity, leave now. The benefactors don't save, they consume. And once you let them in, there's no going back." Aaron's hands clenched into fists. "Captain Drake, if you know something about the benefactors, you owe it to us to tell the truth. Help us understand what we're dealing with." There was a long, heavy silence. Then Drake spoke, his voice filled with sorrow. You're already in too deep. Just remember this, no debt is ever truly repaid. And the benefactors never let go. Before Aaron could respond, the Icarus' engines surged. The ship accelerated into the void, its unstable power core glowing brighter with each passing second. And then, in a blinding flash of light, it was gone, leaving the Argonaut alone once more. On the bridge, silence fell. Aaron stared at the empty void where the Icarus had been, her mind a storm of questions and doubts. Drake's warning echoed in her ears, but the path forward remained unclear. The benefactors had given them a gift humanity desperately needed. But now the shadow of the debt loomed larger than ever. And Aaron knew that whatever choice she made next, there would be no going back. The void where the Icarus had vanished felt heavier than the bridge itself. Captain Aaron Vale sat in silence, her gaze locked on the screen as if it might somehow replay what had just happened. The warning from Captain Drake echoed in her mind, twisting with every moment of doubt that had already been brewing. No debt is ever truly repaid, she murmured to herself, recalling his words. The crew was tense, silent. Even Rail, usually the voice of reason and optimism, seemed unsure of what to say. Mara broke the silence, her voice tight and sharp. We need to leave. No. Whatever this station is, it's no salvation, it's a trap. You heard him. Aaron didn't respond immediately. Her thoughts churned as she weighed the facts against her instincts. The Argonaut was repaired and running better than it ever had, but their benefactor's power had revealed an uncomfortable truth. They were at the mercy of forces far beyond human comprehension. The repairs were a miracle, but they came with invisible chains they could already feel tightening. Finally, Aaron turned to the crew. We need to think this through. If Drake was right, then the benefactors have an agenda. But if he was wrong, if he was just a man broken by isolation and desperation, abandoning this alliance could doom humanity. And if we accept their terms, it could doom us anyway, Mara countered. You saw what happened to the Icarus. Whatever those people became, it wasn't human anymore. Are we willing to risk that? Rail spoke up, his tone cautious but firm. We can't ignore the facts, Captain. The Federation is on the brink of collapse. Earth, the colonies, everyone. If we don't come back with something, there might not be a humanity left to argue over. Whatever the cost, this is bigger than us. The tension in the room was suffocating. Aaron felt the weight of her crew's fear and the lives of billions pressing down on her. She had to decide, and there was no middle ground, only a leap into the unknown. Aaron returned to the sanctum alone, standing once more before the obelisk. The holographic figure appeared instantly, its shifting form as unnerving as ever. You have witnessed our power, it said. And you have seen the fate of those who rejected us. Now, Captain, your decision must be made. Will you accept the debt? Aaron stood tall, her voice steady. Captain Elias Drake warned us about you. He said your gifts come at a cost we can't imagine. He said you would twist humanity into something unrecognizable. The figure tilted its head, its form flickering with light. Captain Drake and his crew faltered because they lacked unity. They sought our gifts but resisted their purpose. You are not like them. You are decisive. You will succeed where they failed. Aaron's jaw tightened. You didn't answer my question. The figure remained silent for a long moment, then spoke in a tone that almost sounded amused. Change is inevitable, Captain. We offer evolution. Ascension. Humanity will endure, but not as it is. You cling to notions of individuality, of freedom, but those are illusions. The survival of your species demands something greater. Together, under our guidance, you will thrive. Aaron's heart pounded. The words struck her like a blow, confirming her worst fears. The benefactors weren't saviors. They were architects of transformation. And humanity's identity, its very soul, was the price of their help. Her mind raced. She could still refuse, could still try to find another way. But the Federation's desperate state loomed large in her thoughts. Billions of lives hung in the balance. Could she gamble all of them on the chance that Drake was wrong? That humanity could survive on its own? The hologram's form shifted again, growing brighter. Your time is short, Captain. Decide. Aaron returned to the Argonaut, her decision made. The crew gathered on the bridge, their eyes fixed on her. She took a deep breath, the weight of her choice pressing down on her shoulders. We're leaving, she said, her voice firm. We'll find another way to survive, another way to save humanity. I won't gamble our future on a promise wrapped in chains. The bridge erupted into murmurs. Mara let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding, her expression one of cautious relief. Rail, however, looked stricken. "Captain, are you sure about this?" he asked, his voice almost pleading. "We might not get another chance like this." Erin met his gaze, her eyes steady. "I'm sure, Rail. Humanity has faced impossible odds before, and we've endured because we didn't sacrifice who we are. I won't let us become something unrecognizable." The Argonaut powered up its engines, its systems gleaming with the lingering remnants of the benefactor's repairs. As the ship pulled away from the alien station, the crew felt the tension ease, just slightly. But the weight of their decision lingered. From the sanctum, the obelisk pulsed with light as if watching them go. The benefactors did not attempt to stop them, nor did they send another message. But as the station faded into the distance, Erin couldn't shake the feeling that their decision had not gone unnoticed. Days later, as the Argonaut charted its course back toward Federation space, they picked up a faint signal. It was distorted and weak, but unmistakably human. Erin listened intently as the transmission crackled to life. "This is Captain Elias Drake of the Icarus," the voice said, faint but clear. "If you're hearing this, it means you made the right choice. The benefactors are not what they seem. But there's hope. There's always hope. Keep fighting." The signal faded, leaving the bridge in silence. Erin leaned back in her chair, her resolve hardening. Drake's message was a small beacon in the darkness, a reminder that their choice, however difficult, was the right one. Humanity's survival would not come from the hand of an alien benefactor. It would come from their own resilience, their own ingenuity. The road ahead would be long and fraught with peril, but it was their road, unchained, unbroken. Erin Vale looked out at the stars, a quiet determination in her eyes. "Set course for home," she said. "Let's show the galaxy what humanity can do." And with that, the Argonaut surged forward, leaving the benefactors and their bargain behind.